Hi, I'm Demi, founder and CEO of You're the Book Press and editor-in-chief of Self Pub Magazine. We're here in the studio today with author and illustrator Brett Greiman. Welcome.
Thank you.
Psyched to have you here. Tell us a little bit about your two most recent projects.
I just completed earlier this year a project with author Judy Wolfman about, we call it The Long Escape, but it's about the Golden Venture, which ran aground in New York, but the refugees
The Chinese refugee camp in York, okay.
Yes. So I designed a book cover for her, and this is also a book marker, and I did about, I think it was around 8 illustrations for inside of the book. Now, with both the book cover and the illustrations on the inside, they were both done in a combination of Adobe Illustrator and Adobe Photoshop.
That's interesting. When I think about illustrating, I think about a pencil on paper. When did you learn to use the computer to illustrate?
Yeah, well, of course, the conventional media I've been using forever. But I started working with the Macintosh computer, which Adobe programs just naturally go with the Macintosh computer.
Except for Flash.
Yeah. But I started that, I guess, around 1995.
Oh, so this is not new for you.
Oh, no. And I worked in book pre-press for many years, first in the conventional realm and then in the Macintosh.
So this book, The Long Escape, is already out, right?
Yes, Judy's been promoting that, and she and I have actually done several book signings.
Fantastic.
And I'm down to 4. I only have 4 left.
You're down to 4 book signings or 4 copies?
No, 4 copies. 4 copies.
Gonna have to stock up there. So you've got another work that's more in the middle right now.
Right. Started on this project late fall of 2014. I'm working with an author by the name of Thomas DiMaggio, and he has written a book called Superboy, Slave of the Magic Mirror. And we've got the cover completed. We're working on 6 chapter opening illustrations. Actually, no, I have 2 more of them to do. And then I believe there's 14 in-text illustrations. Now this was all done in Adobe Illustrator and Photoshop, and we had our 3 models here pose for it, then did Photoshop work. He wasn't actually wearing a Superboy costume.
I was going to ask where he got that.
And then opened his eyes wider because he's supposed to look like he's very
So he's dazed, that slave.
Yes.
In the mirror.
And then, of course, Lex Luthor here is, our villain. And,
I bet the man who did the photo shoot for Lex Luthor is really psyched.
Yeah, exactly. And
I'm a supervillain.
I had to darken his eyebrows too in Photoshop. But then, what you do is you work on a lot of different levels here with the 3 figures and background and the type, and it all comes together in Illustrator.
So the interior photos, is this one of them? It gives me the sense more like a comic book feel to it.
Well, it does have almost, if you look at the color scheme, which is holding true throughout all 6, it has almost a Dick Tracy feel to it. And all of these internal illustrations are being created conventionally. And what I mean by that, it's in this case, it's a combination of 4 mediums. So what I do is I talk with the client about what client being the author, what is it that he wants each illustration to show. And I work out several ideas called thumbnails, and I go through and I pick out which one I feel is the best design and also meets the criteria of the author.
So thumbnail, you mean something very small?
Very small, yeah. And
that's more efficient.
Yeah. And so you have to do this planning work before you get into this. So what I do then is I show the author what's called a pencil rough, and we, most of what we do is through email. I send a scan to him, and he gets back to me and says, do this, do that, change this, change that. And so I go ahead and make those changes. One of the changes on here was the 2 assistants to the villain, Lex Luthor. It was decided that we wouldn't show their faces, just their hands holding the kryptonite.
Oh, that's so much more sinister. sinister and evil.
It leaves more imagination up to the viewer. So then we go into what's called a working drawing, with this being, the idea being that, okay, this is what it's going to look like. So I scan that, send that to the author, and the author says...
the action feels so much more dangerous. It feels like we've zoomed in on it.
Exactly. So, and as you can see, here's one of the changes that was incorporated into it. Also had to shift Lex Luthor deeper into the sofa. So at this point then, the author says, yes, that's what I want. And what I do is I take this and I put what's called graphite paper underneath it, between this and the illustration board.
Okay.
And then I trace this onto the illustration board. And that then is what you see here. When this is created, I have the tracing put down, it's graphite on illustration board, and then what I do is I establish my range of grayscale with graphite. So I go in with graphite pencils, establish here's the lights, here's the darks. Once I'm happy with that, then I put down a layer of colored pencil, and on top of that are washes of acrylic paint, which intensifies the color. And then the final application is with paint called gouache. And so that's the approved illustration.
Just makes it pop. That's incredible. Now I hear that you and Judy may have another project in the works.
Oh yes, we're working right now on a book about young Milton Hershey. And this is...
of chocolate fame?
Of chocolate fame,
oh!
Yes. And when she gave me the manuscript, I read it straight through, beginning to end, without stopping. And maybe at some point here there's going to be some chocolate bars. I don't know.
Oh, I think when your next book signing occurs, there needs to be Hershey's on the table.
So she's working on getting that published. This, of course, was a published book. This one is still in the works. But here again, this one is done with conventional mediums. It's graphite and colored pencil and acrylics.
So if an author who's watching today wanted to contact you about illustrations, how could they reach you?
Well, probably the best way is just do a Google search for my name, Brett Greiman, and the very first thing that comes up is my business website.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's brettgreiman.com.
Excellent.
I'm sorry, it's not brettgreiman.com. That's what I should make it, but it's longer than that. But if it's a Wix website.
Okay.
So, but it will be the very first thing that comes up.
Well, we'll flash it up here on this screen for you.
Oh, okay.
What if we wanted to just connect a little deeper and see more of your artwork?
I usually have works on exhibit at the York Art Association. It depends on what show is
Philadelphia Street area in York here?
Oh, no, that's, I think
Where's
you might think of York Arts. This is, the York Art Association is Marshall Street.
Marshall Street.
In East York. But I do have a... one piece was chosen by the juror for the York Fest jury exhibit that's coming up the end of August.
Congratulations.
So if you get a chance, I will be there with my jury painting and keep my fingers crossed. If I win an award, great, but if I don't, I'm just happy to be in. But that will open the last Friday of August at the Agricultural and Industrial Museum.
Can't wait. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.